What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. Today we got the updated ncaabb Power 35 rankings heading into Week 10 of college basketball. During Week 9, we had a ton of changes because most of these teams played 2 games, got into conference play. We are in full swing now. This is how it's going to be the rest of the season. So week to week, we're going to have a ton of changes, and we come out with this video every single Monday for the updated rankings. So make sure you guys subscribe, because not only this, but we have a ton of other college basketball content here on the channel as well. So you're not going to want to miss it. Hit that sub button, and let's get into this week's rankings. All right, you guys know how we do it. I give you guys all the rankings all at once so you guys can look them over, see what you agree with, what you disagree with, who should be higher, who should be lower, and who got snubbed from my Power 35 rankings this week. Let me know down below in the comment section. But yeah, guys, we have the same top 3. With all the changes that happened, we have the same top 3. They have been consistent all season long. One of those teams being undefeated. That is number 2, Kentucky. They're number 1 in the AP. My rankings, they've been number 2 for quite a while, and I'm excited for Auburn and Tennessee to match up against each other. That's going to be a fantastic matchup, one of the best games of the regular season. But other than that top 3, there's only one other team that stayed in the same position that they were in last week. That means, 31 of these 35 teams moved either up or down or completely out of the rankings or jumped into the rankings that is new this week. So let's go over these teams. Auburn, number 1. They looked really good once again this past week, just dominating everybody that they play. And yeah, they're just continuing to be a fantastic team. They have an awesome set offense with Janai Broom. They can either feed it down low, play the inside-out game, set a bunch of screens off the roll. They have plenty of shooters on this team as well. Auburn is legit, and they have been my number 1 since week 2. We are now in week 10, so that is 8 straight weeks of Auburn being my number 1 team in the country. Tennessee is number 2. They've been my number 2 for quite some time now. This has got to be like the 4th week in a row at least. They're undefeated. They looked really good this week. Arkansas is a pretty good team. They're one of those teams that fell out of my rankings this week because they took a loss, but they are still on the watch list. But they were my number 30 team last week, and Tennessee just walked all over them. Chaz Lanier is a legit shooter. Whenever he gets hot, he's hard to stop. Zakai Ziegler, we all know he is very experienced. I believe he is a 5th-year senior. At least it seems like it. He's definitely at least a 4-year senior. But he is a phenomenal point guard, playmaker, and defender, which is really surprising for his size. But he is an awesome defender at the point guard position. Iowa State beat up on the Baylor Bears this week at home. They're going to be very tough to beat in Hilton Coliseum this year. I don't think they will lose a home game. I expect them to win the Big 12, especially with how the Big 12 has gone so far. There's going to be other teams that are going to be competing with them. They're probably going to take a road loss or 2 in league play. But I expect them to win the Big 12, and I expect them to get a 1 seed, honestly, at this point. They have looked really good. And I've said this a lot, but Keyshawn Gilbert has really taken a step up this year and become a legit superstar in college basketball and a legit number 1 option on a team, on one of the best teams in the country. Duke Blue Devils jumping up 1 spot here to number 4. They were number 5 last week. Went on the road to SMU. Believe it or not, SMU's actually been a pretty decent team so far. Didn't look like it against Duke, though. The Blue Devils wiped the floor with him, and Cooper Flagg, that might have been his best game so far of the season. He did play pretty good against Arizona. I remember watching that game. Cooper Flagg looked pretty good, but yeah, he looked really good against SMU. One of the more efficient games he has had so far in his freshman year this season. Alabama jumping up 2 spots to number 5. Waxed Oklahoma in their SEC opener. Welcome to the SEC Sooners. And yeah, Sooners were undefeated. Alabama took them down. They were the home team. I expected Alabama to win, and I kind of said, I'm pretty sure Alabama's going to win, but if Oklahoma keeps it close, they might not fall as much. Well, they didn't really keep it close, but that was their first loss of the season. They are still ranked. We'll get to them here in a minute. Marquette jumping up 2 spots, opening up Big East play. Well, they've been in Big East play for a week or two now, but looking really good, undefeated in Big East play so far, jumping up 2 spots here. Cam Jones, one of the best players in the country. Kentucky jumping up 5 spots, back into the top 10 from number 12 up to number 7. They looked really good against formerly undefeated Florida, as Florida comes into Rupp and gets takes an L. They leave Rupp with an L. That was a crazy offensive game. Both teams scoring above 100 points. Florida exactly at 100 points, but Kentucky over 100 points. Kobe Brea is the best shooter in college basketball, the most efficient shooter in college basketball. He had this one move where he pump faked, crossover behind the back, pump faked again, had his defender jump in a second time, drained a 3, and I believe that was like his 3rd 3 in a row. He was on a crazy heat check in the final 5 minutes of that game. He's super fun to watch as a shooter, and they got other guys as well, of course, but we could go on and on about Kentucky, but let's move on to number 8. We got Texas A&M jumping up 2 spots from number 10 to number 8. They've been in my top 10 the last few weeks, and they've been staying there. I've been surprised with Texas A&M's consistency this year. They won their SEC opener against the Texas Longhorns at home, and they really pulled away towards the end of that game, looking really good. This is finally the year Texas A&M, over the past few years, we expected them maybe not to be a top 10 team, but to definitely be like a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, and they just have not been that. They've always kind of got that 7, 8, 9, 10 seed by the end of the year because they haven't had a good non-conference. Well, they had a good non-conference this year, and they're starting off conference play strong. Texas A&M up 2 spots, number 8. Number 9, dropping down 5 spots is the Florida Gators, losing their first game of the season on the road at Kentucky. Kentucky's a really good team, guys, and they were in that game. Florida showed that they have an elite backcourt of Will Richard, Elijah Martin, and of course Walter Clayton Jr. They look really good still. That's a very tough place to play. Kentucky is a really good team. As you can see, I got them number 7. I don't think that they should fall too far, and definitely not out of the top 10, so they're dropping 5 spots from number 4 to number 9. Number 10, we got Illinois jumping up 11 spots. Very, very impressed with Illinois this week, and with some teams losing, dropping out of the top 10, there is opportunity for them to climb up, and they did that. They are my top-ranked Big Ten team at the moment. They went on the road at Oregon. Very tough week for Oregon sports, by the way. Beat pretty bad, put up over 110 points on them on the road, really took over in that second half. Everybody was clicking for the Illini, and they finished the road trip this week on the West Coast because they also beat Washington on the road, which Washington might actually not be that bad considering they beat Maryland this week. Maryland had a rough week. They drop out of my rankings. They were top 20, I believe 18. They lost to Oregon and Washington. The same road trip as Illinois, just reversed games in order. Illinois had a good road trip. Maryland had a terrible one. Memphis, number 11, jumping up 14 spots. I told you guys, Memphis fans, I was maybe underrating them a little bit last week, having them at 25. Memphis fans, let me hear it, and I heard you guys. I said, I will show you guys some love if you guys go 2-0 this week to open up the American Conference against FAU on the road and North Texas at home. What do you guys do? You go 2-0. Looked really good and dominant against FAU. North Texas hung in there. It was this last game before I started making my rankings on Sunday. And, yeah, it was a pretty good game, but Memphis held on. North Texas is a really good team. I believe those are going to be 2 of the tougher teams for Memphis in the American Conference this year. So for them to pick up those 2 wins, very impressive. They're up here at number 14. Or at number 11, jumping up 14 spots. Number 12, we got Michigan State jumping up 2 spots. Looking really good in Big Ten play so far. They're undefeated. They're my second ranked Big Ten team here at number 12. Obviously, they lost to Memphis earlier this year in the Maui Invitational, one spot behind them kind of makes sense there. Head-to-heads don't mean everything in my power rankings, but when the teams are close and I'm not really sure which one to put above the other, and they've played head-to-head, it's a good tiebreaker. And I believe Memphis over Michigan State makes a lot of sense right now. UConn at number 13, another team Memphis did beat in the Maui in double overtime. Crazy game. Dan Hurley threw the biggest hissy fit of the season in that one. But ever since his hissy fit in the Maui and going 0-3 in that tournament, UConn hasn't lost a single game. And they played some pretty stiff competition, looking really good, looking like maybe the best team in the Big East. Marquette has something to say about that, but it's a two-man race in the Big East 100%. Oregon at number 14, dropping 5 spots after getting whooped, by Illinois, but they bounce back with a win against Oregon or against Maryland. So because of that win, I think Maryland's still a really good team. They had a rough week, but we'll see. Oregon doesn't drop too far, drop 5 spots here. They need to have a good week next week. Oklahoma dropping 9 spots. They got beat up really bad by Alabama, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah, they're going to need to bounce back. It's going to be a tough league play for them. They got to get it back this week and have a pretty good week. Vanderbilt staying at number 16, and this was a team you guys have been telling me that you think is ranked too hard or too high. I think I agree with you guys. I think Vanderbilt's going to ranked a little bit too high for me, but they're staying put because I said I'm going to give them a chance to head into SEC play and compete. And what they do, their first SEC game, they go on the road at LSU and pick up a win. Mark Byington is an excellent coach. They may not stay top 20 for long just because the SEC is so stacked. But I think Vanderbilt, he's building something there. They might be good for years to come because Mark Byington is a good coach. He had James Madison winning a lot of games last year. Mississippi State jumping up 2 spots. They're really good. Only 1 loss in the season. Chris Jans, another excellent coach there in the SEC. I believe they played South Carolina at home, beat them pretty bad. Excited to watch them play some of these other good teams in the SEC. West Virginia, my favorite team, jumping up 17 spots, the biggest riser of the week. After going 2-0, jumping all the way from number 35, where they were for like the past 3 weeks for me, to number 18. I think that they deserve it. They definitely deserve to be a top 25 team. And I believe a top 20 team. I got them all the way up here at number 18. Went on the road and defeated Kansas. Does not happen often for Kansas to lose in Fall Allen. I believe that their coach, Bill Self, he's like 350-17 in Fall Allen over the course of his career. He's been there forever. So that's not the exact record, but it's something along those lines. He has less than 20 losses at home. West Virginia went in their first year head coach, Darren DeVries, without one of their starters, Tucker DeVries, without another one of their starters as center in Amani Hansberry, and got the job done. Very impressive. They've also beaten Gonzaga on the year. They housed Oklahoma State at home this Saturday as well. 2-0 week for them. 2-0 in Big 12. Really 3-0 because they beat Arizona earlier this season. Technically not a conference game because it was in the Maui Invitational. But, WVU, we're back. Number 19, dropping 8 spots, is the Kansas Jayhawks, as I mentioned just now. They did lose at home to West Virginia, but they've had it rough lately. They not only did they lose to West Virginia, but before that they were losing to Creighton on the road, Missouri on the road. It was a rough little stretch for them, but they might have got it back because they really destroyed Central Florida today on Sunday as I'm recording this video. Really bad. I believe 100-47. It was really bad, and that was on the road. Central Florida's not a bad team. Kansas came to make a statement, and we'll see if they can continue to do so. But for now, they're going to drop 8 spots to number 19. Number 20, we got Utah State, another one of my bigger jumpers of the week, jumping up 14 spots. They were number 34 last week. They're up to number 20. Just really good, undefeated in Mountain West play so far. They got some really good wins on the season. I believe they are my now top-ranked mid-major team. Very impressed with Utah State this year so far. They deserve it. They're number 20. Number 21, we got Houston. They're starting off Big 12 play 2-0 against definitely BYU, and I can't remember the other team that they did beat, but they're 2-0 on the week, 2-0 in Big 12 play, jumping up 5 spots to number 21, trying to, they've been slowly inching their way back into, the top 20, top 15. I think they're probably going to get there eventually. Number 22, we got Michigan, jumping up 9 spots. They've just been looking really good. 2-0 this week, went on the road to beat USC. Michigan looking really good. Danny Wolf at point center has been one of my favorite players to watch so far this season. Wisconsin at number 23, jumping up 9 spots as well. Michigan did beat Wisconsin. That's the tiebreaker there. It was a close ranking, but Wisconsin got a really good win. They put up another 100 bomb on Iowa this week. I think it was the most points scored on Iowa at home ever. I believe I saw that stat somewhere, so pretty impressive there by Wisconsin. That's not the first time they put up 100 this year. I believe they did so against Arizona at home towards the beginning of the year. Pitt, Wisconsin did beat Pitt earlier this year in the Greenbrier tournament. That is the tiebreaker there, but Pitt is a really good team. Their best win is against West Virginia at home in the backyard brawl. I was actually attending that game. It was a whooping, but Pitt is in the top 25 here at number 24. Number 25, we do have Gonzaga jumping up 2 spots. I believe they face Loyola Marymount this week. Beat them pretty bad. They're not going to have too much competition in their league in the West Coast Conference, but St. Mary's pretty good. San Francisco's pretty good. We'll see if any of them can take down Gonzaga. Number 26, we got San Diego State. Gonzaga did beat San Diego State earlier in the year. But San Diego State, not playing too bad. I believe they've had a good enough non-con to where they are going to get an at-large out of the Mountain West for sure. They're a really good team. They went on the road and defeated Boise State this week. That is not an easy place to play. Big win for the Aztecs. Number 27, we do have Purdue jumping up 10 spots, 2-0 this week. I kept them completely out of my rankings last week. They were on the watch list, and they really impressed me this week. Coming back, I think that they're a top 30 team. They're at 27. Number 28, we got Ole Miss also jumping up 10 spots from the watch list. Looked really good. Beat Georgia, who was my number 19 team last week, and Georgia fell Georgia did not fall completely out of my rankings, but they fell below Ole Miss. Ole Miss beat them. They beat them this week, starting off SEC strong. This is finally the year Chris Beard's going to get back to the tournament, first time with Ole Miss. Number 29, we got Nebraska ball, looking really good, beating UCLA this week, who they are jumping in front of here, jumping up 7 spots. They were, I think, my number 1 team on the watch list last week. They got a big win against UCLA at home, and they've had some good wins this year against UCLA, against Creighton at home. Nebraska is here, man, and they're building a good basketball program. They're the only Power 5 team to never win an NCAA tournament game. Not even in the first round. So I'm rooting for them this year. I want to see them win a first-round game. Number 30, we got UCLA. As I mentioned, they're dropping 8 spots because they did lose to the team in front of them, the Netflix Cornhuskers there. Number 31, we do have St. John's dropping 8 spots. They lost to Creighton this week. They went 1-1 this week. Not a great week. But I do still think they are the 3rd best team in the Big East, and I do think they are an NCAA tournament team. So we'll see if they can keep that status with a good week next week. Number 32, we do have Georgia dropping 13 spots after their loss to Ole Miss. They didn't have a strong non-conference schedule. But they did actually beat St. John's, which I am just now remembering that, so I should probably have swapped them and have Georgia 31, St. John's number 32. But I mean, either way, they're around the same spot. You guys understand where they're at. I'll fix that next week. If they're both close again, I'll switch that because Georgia did beat St. John's. But Georgia, that was their only good non-con win. So for them to not start off league play strong made them drop 13 spots. 33, we do have Dayton. They did not start off A10 play strong with a loss to George Washington University. So that was a bad loss for Dayton, but they've had a really good non-con, so they're not going to fall completely out of the rankings. I still think they're the favorite in the A10, even though the A10 is pretty strong. But if they don't win, because I feel like, somebody's going to come out and win the A10, I still think Dayton is good enough for an at-large, assuming they don't lose a ton of games in league play. Georgetown, the only team that was not ranked and not on the watch list from last week, who made the rankings this week here at 34. They were not ranked. Georgetown has really impressed. A good win over Xavier this week. They only have a couple losses on the season, one of those on the road to West Virginia, who that loss is looking like a really good quality loss right now. And yeah, Georgetown in the rankings here at number 34. Number 35, we got the Baylor Bears dropping 5 spots. They went on the road to Iowa State and got beat up pretty bad, but they went 1-1 on the week, only dropping 5 spots here. We'll see if they can bounce back next week. On the watch list, we have Arizona 2-0 to start off Big 12 play for them, including a win on the road at Cincinnati. Dominated that whole game. Cincinnati almost crawled back into it. Well, they did crawl back into it, but Arizona never gave up the lead, and they held on and won that game. Good, impressive road game win in league play for Arizona. They need to keep it up. Arkansas drops out of the rankings. They're on the watch list, though. They lost to a really good team this week in Tennessee. So they fell out of the rankings. There wasn't a spot for them, but they're still on the watch list. A good week, they can get back in the rankings. UC San Diego, they were on the watch list last week. They did nothing but destroy Cal Poly, so they're still on the watch list. But if they continue that, they'll eventually find them a spot here in the Power 35. Just wasn't a spot for them this week. Indiana, similarly to Arizona, they don't have as many of losses to Arizona, but they haven't played as many good teams. Indiana is starting to crawl back into contention as far as, rankings and bracketologies. They had a good win today against Penn State. Maryland, bad week. They were in my top 20. They went 0-2 on the road. West Coast road trip against Oregon and Washington. Wasn't a good trip for them, but yeah, they're on the watch list. They can get back into the rankings. They've had, a good start so far other than this past week, so they can get back. Drake, one of the worst weeks of one of the worst weeks of any teams for them. They lost to Murray State and UIC. So they drop all the way from, I believe, number 14 to completely out of the rankings. Those are pretty bad losses, Drake needed to start Missouri Valley strong, and it's looking like Bradley is coming to, snatch their spot as the number 1 team in that league. But we'll see. That's going to be a really hyped up game, Drake versus Bradley. St. Mary's is just so good, man. They're underrated, I believe, at this point. I think that they've done enough in the non-con to really warrant an at-large bid still this year, and they're on the watch list. They keep winning. They're going to find them a spot here in the rankings. And then Cincinnati, 0-2 on the week. I mentioned the loss to Arizona, and they also lost on the road at Kansas State. Very bad week for Cincinnati. They fell completely out of the rankings. I believe they were top 25 last week, they were 24 for me last week. Cincinnati falls completely out of the rankings. They're going to need a good week to get back in it next week. But yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think about the rankings. Who's too high? Who's too low? I already know I made the mistake of having St. John's over Georgia. I should swap those two because Georgia did beat St. John's. But other than that, I feel like my rankings are pretty good this week. I feel good about them. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. And subscribe if you guys haven't already. Thank you so much for watching.